everyone. I had a couple people, or a few people I should say, ask me how I made my Daisy Granny Square purse or bag. So I have put this video together not as a tutorial. I don't want to call it a tutorial. It's more of a make along because I'm not a crochet designer. I do not have a pattern for this that I can point you in the right direction to. I already knew how to make Daisy Granny Squares. I had seen somewhere, I don't know if it was a post on Instagram or if it was on YouTube, someone had made a Granny Square bag using 13 Granny Squares. All I did was figure out how to sew them together, like what configuration they had to go in. And I stitched all of it myself and added the handles and everything without a pattern. So I do not have a pattern to point you to. But if you want to make one of these bags and you're interested in learning how to do it, we can do a make along. I just made this bag for this video. It's for my daughter. In the video, I'll show you how to make the Daisy Granny Square, how to sew them together, what order they have to be sewn in. How to add, or what I did to add a lining into the bag, and then how to do the crocheted edging and the straps. All right, so you can follow along with this video, but again, I don't want to call it a tutorial because I don't have a pattern you can follow along with. It's just a make along with me, if you will. So I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you soon. Okay, so obviously the first thing you're going to need is yarn. You're going to need 3 colors of yarn, something for the center of your daisy, something for the daisy itself, and this does not have to be a white or cream. You can make colored flowers if you want to. So whatever you want to use for the daisy petals. And then the main color that you want to use for the rest of the Granny Square and your actual bag. On top of needing 3 different colors of yarn, you're going to need a crochet hook suitable for the weight of yarn that you're using. I'm using a 5mm crochet hook. You can use a 5, you can use a 6. It's going to change the size of your granny square. So if your squares end up larger than mine, your bag is going to be larger. If your granny squares are smaller than mine, your bag is going to be a lot smaller. So I'm using a worsted weight yarn with a 5mm hook. You're also going to need a pair of snips or scissors and a darning needle to sew your squares together. This is not what I would call a beginner tutorial, so you will have to already know some crochet terms. These squares, I'll just show you this one. These squares are made using, you will have to chain, you will have to single crochet, you will need to do double crochet, triple crochet, also known as a treble crochet, and that's it for the types of stitches that are used. So you will need to know some basic crochet knowledge. I will slow down and show you how I'm doing those stitches, but I'm not going to teach you how to do those stitches technically. And the last thing, if you do want to add a lining to your bag, you're going to need some sort of fabric to cut and put inside, as well as a sewing needle and matching color thread, or you can use a sewing machine if you prefer to machine sew your lining into your bag. So let me grab a cup of coffee and we're going to get started. All right, as you can see, I already have some squares done. I have enough done for my daughter's bag. She wanted one that was pink and green. I'm in the middle of doing the ones for my mother's bag. She wanted red and these creamy white daisies. And I also have to make a pink bag for my sister. So because I have all of these centers already done, I'm going to start on some centers for her bag And that way I'll be able to show you how to do this from the beginning. So I'm going to start with my yellow yarn and my crochet hook. And a daisy granny square really ends up, the daisy is a circle piece, and then we turn this into a square when we do this outer row of color. So right now I'm going to show you how to do the yellow center. So you're going to want to start with a slip knot and put your crochet hook through the slip knot, tighten it up a little bit. And we're going to chain 4. Let me see if I can stay in the camera here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once you've chained 4, you're going to put your crochet hook through the first chain there and draw up a yarn over and draw up your yarn through the hole and then draw it through the loop on your hook, and that'll create this little centerpiece here. Okay, and in that center we are going to put a series of double crochets. So we're going to start by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to yarn over, go into that center hole, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So now you should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's your first double crochet done. So you've got this chain 3 that acts as a double crochet, and then you've got your first actual double crochet stitch done. We're going to add 12 double crochets, so yarn over into the center again, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over into the center of your circle, yarn over, pull up a loop again, so you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we're going to do 12 double crochets. I'm just going to go ahead and do mine, and I'll meet you back at the beginning where we join this together. And on the back side of this, I am holding the tail from my chain 3, and as I'm going into the center, I'm actually stitching right over that tail, so I don't need to sew this tail in at the end. I'm already, I don't know if you can see that, I'm already, as I'm pulling up my yarn, it's covering this tail. So let's see how many I've got. I'm going to count starting at this front loop here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And this loop here is going to be my 12th top loop when I attach it. So that's my 12 ready to go. So now I'm going to join at the top of that first chain 3 we did. So not including this loop I just pulled up. If you count the loops, the V's on the top of these stitches, you should have 12 of those all the way around. Okay? So we're done with that one. So I've just pulled that up. And what I'm going to do is just slip my yarn through that stitch and cut it off. Okay, So there's my little circle. So I don't need to worry about this tail. That's already been sewn in now all the way around here. I can actually just snip that off. I don't need it anymore. All right, so that's the first center done. So onto you're gonna need 13 of these. So it takes 13 of these granny squares to make a bag. So you're gonna need 13 of these. So that's one. Now I'm gonna add the daisy to this center. And for that, I am going to use this off-white yarn that I have here. When I'm doing garments, I don't worry about having knots. I don't put knots, I should say, in my garments when I make them. But when I'm doing something like this, a bag where it needs to be sturdy and I don't want my crochet to come undone, I will put knots in my granny squares. I'll show you what I mean now. So that last double crochet that we did right here, you can see the stitch there. There's the little V at the top. You're going to put your hook through that. You're going to take a slip knot of your next yarn color, put that on there and pull it through that hole. Okay? And what I'm going to do with these tails on the back is I'm actually going to join these two colors in a knot on the back of my work. This is what I mean by I normally wouldn't knot my work. I would normally just weave these in very carefully afterwards if it was a garment. I don't like to have knots, but this you will not see, and it does not change the look of the piece. It just secures those together, and I'm going to let those tails hang on the back. Okay. I'm going to pick up my working yarn and I'm going to hold those tails down out of the way so again I can crochet over them and sew them in as I go. If not, you can just let them hang out and sew them in later. So to start our second row for the actual petals of the daisy, you're going to start with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then into that same hole, that same space that you just put your chain 4, you're going to do 2 treble crochets. So for a treble crochet, a double, you normally wrap your yarn once and go through the hole. With a treble crochet, you're going to wrap your yarn twice around your hook. So I have my loop and then 2 wraps. A loop and then 2 wraps. And then I'm going to go into the hole right there. I'm going to yarn over, pull up another loop. So now I have 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, leaves me with 3, yarn over, pull through 2. That leaves me with 2 loops. Now normally to finish the treble crochet, we would yarn over and pull through the last 2, but for the daisy petal, we're not going to do that. We're going to leave those 2 on there. Then we're going to yarn over twice again for another start, for another treble crochet. And we're going to go back through the same hole. We're going to yarn over, pull up another loop. So now you should have 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. And now we have 3. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops to join them together in a little point at the top. So that creates a petal. So that's petal number 1 done. We need 12 of these, so we're going to put 1 petal in every stitch around our center. So to do the next one, because we started with a chain 4. To do the next one will be the same as all the rest. You're going to start right away by chaining 2, 1, 2. Then you're going to do 2 wraps on your hook. Insert your hook into the next stitch in this round of your daisy. There you go. You're going to yarn over, pull up a loop. So now we have 4 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. So now you have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to wrap your yarn twice again into that same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now we have 5 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, leaves us 3. Now we need 1 more treble crochet because it takes 3 to make up a petal. So we're going to wrap our yarn twice, go through that same stitch again, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now we have 6 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We're left with 4 loops on the hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops, and that gives us our second petal with a chain 2 space in between separating both of these petals. So again, chain 2, 1, 2, and then 3 treble crochets into the next stitch. So I'll do my first treble crochet, insert my hook. Now again, I like to keep my tails on top of my work as I'm going around, so I'm catching the tail and sewing that in as I go, but you can leave that and you can go ahead and stitch that, sew that in at the end if you want to. So that's 2 treble crochets, going in through my third one, yarn over, pull through all 4, and then I have a third petal. Chain 2 into the next stitch for 3 more. So we're going to do this all the way around until you have 12 petals, and each petal consists of 3 treble crochets joined together by that last stitch, and they're separated by a chain 2. So all of these have 3 treble crochets except for your first one, which has a chain 4, oops, and 2 treble crochets. Okay, so I will fast forward here and meet you at the end. Okay, once you've made it all the way around your daisy with your treble crochets, the very last one that you do, you're going to attach that back to your starting chain. So we're going to put our 3 treble crochets in here like we did all the way around. There's 1. You can probably hear my dogs in the background now. 2 and 3. Then I'm going to chain through all of them to connect them together. I'm going to do my chain 2 as though I'm starting another petal, but instead I'm going to join it to the top of this chain that we started with. There we go. All done. Cut the end. So there you go. Now you've got your circle, and that's what we're going to turn into our granny square. Okay, so now that we've got our circle finished, oops, my camera's moving. There we go. Now that we've got the circle finished with all of our petals done, we're going to pick our next color. And I'm going to use this pink because I'm going to work on my sister's bag because I already have all the pieces made for my mom's. And the pink might be easier to see than this darker red on camera when I'm doing the stitches. And again, I'm just doing this the way that I do it. I don't have a written pattern I'm working from. So anything I say about the type of stitches and stuff, I can't point you in the right direction for a pattern, but you can jot down or follow along with this video, pause it as you're doing your pieces, and then pick up at the next section. So we're going to change color again. I've got a slip knot of my pink yarn. I'm going to insert my hook in the chain 2 space that's right before my ending point on my daisy. So in goes my hook. I'm going to put the slip knot on my hook and just pull it through to the front. And again, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to take the 2 loose ends from my last color and my new color and just tie a simple little 4 square knot. Excuse my dog there for a second. She's barking. So I'm going to finish our little square knot here. Pull that tight. You can let your ends hang down in the back, or you can do like me and just hold them in place and work over them as you're stitching along. That way your ends are already sewn in for you. So what we're going to start with is we're going to chain, I think it's a chain 4. Yep, so we're going to chain 4. So when we make our squares, I don't know if you can see this very well, how we turn the circle, the daisy circle, into a granny square is we have to create corners. Our corners are created using a series of 3 treble crochets, a chain 3, and 3 more treble crochets, all done as what you would call a shell stitch into one of the chain 2 spaces between your daisy petals. So that gives us a corner. Then in the next chain 2 space, we do 3 double crochets. The next chain 2 space, we do 3 double crochets. And then in the next chain 2 space, we do another one of these shells with 3 trebles, 3 chains, and 3 trebles. And that's how we create our corners. So when we start, we're actually going to start with 1/2 of this shell. So we're going to chain our 4 and then do 2 treble crochets into the same chain 2 space, because we had to turn this into a square. So I'm going to start with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to do a treble crochet into the same chain 2 space. So wrap your yarn twice around your hook into that space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the second 2 loops. Now when we were doing our daisies, we left these loops here. We're not going to do that now. We're going to complete the treble as we go. So we're going to yarn over a 3rd time and pull through those last 2 loops. Okay, so you're left with just the 1 loop on your hook. So again, we're going to wrap twice around our hook. You're going to go through the chain 2 space again, the same one. Pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So there we go. We've got our chain 4, which acts as our first treble crochet, a treble crochet, and another treble crochet. So that's the first 3 done. So that's the beginning of a corner. We're now going to chain 1, And in the next chain 2 space, so in between the next petal right here, we're going to do 3 double crochets this time. So yarn over into the chain 2 space, yarn over, pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's our first double crochet. We're going to do 2 more. Yarn over into the same space, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's 2 double crochets and a third one. Yarn over into the space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So there we have the start of a corner with the treble crochets, a chain 1, 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 more double crochets into the next space. I'll do those quickly. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Chain 1. Now we're going to create our second corner. This is the start of a first corner. Oops, I'm not in frame. This is the start of a first corner right here, separated by 2 sets of double crochet clusters, granny clusters. Now into the next chain 2 space, we're actually going to do a full corner. So we're going to wrap our yarn twice and do 3 treble crochets into that space. So this is going to be treble number 1. Okay. Wrap again, treble number 2, wrap again, treble number, oops, into the wrong hole, Pam, treble number 3. So we have 3 treble crochets in that space. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to put 3 more treble crochets in that same space. Wrap twice and do 1, 2, and 3. There you go. So there's our corner. So we've just turned a corner. Can you see that? So 3 treble crochets, a chain 3, 3 treble crochets. That creates a nice corner. So now again, chain 1, and we're going to put 3 double crochets in this space, chain 1, 3 double crochets in this space. So I'll do that pretty quick here. That's 1 double, that's 2 doubles, that's 3 doubles, chain 1, 3 doubles in the next space. That's 1 double, 2 doubles, 3 doubles. Okay, so now we're going to need to do another corner. So we're going to turn the corner again on this corner. So all of our corners are separated by 2 clusters of double crochets. So we've got a corner, double crochet, cluster, double crochet, cluster, then our corner, double crochet, cluster, double crochet, cluster, chain 1. Now we're going to do another set of corners. So again, wrap twice. We're going to do 3 treble crochets. 1, whoops, almost 1. There's 2. There's 3. So 3 treble crochets, 3 chains, and 3 more treble crochets in the exact same space. 1, 2, 3. So there you go. So now we've got 2 corners, right? This was where we started down here. So I'm going to finish now working around, doing 2 double crochet clusters separated by a corner, 2 double crochet clusters separated by a corner. And I'll meet you back here so we can finish it. So once you have your last set, okay, we're working up our last side of our granny square. You've got your 2 sets of double crochets done. You've chained, you're going to chain 1, and now we need to finish off this corner where we started. So that set of trebles is done. We're going to need to put 3 more treble crochets in here. So you're going to wrap twice and do your 3 treble crochets back into that same space where we started. So it's a little tight getting them in there. It can be a little tight, but you want to kind of pull this apart. And once you get your 3 treble crochets in there, again, what do we do on every corner? We chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And because our chain of 4 and our first 2 double crochets acts as that other piece of the shell for the corner, we're now just going to join this chain 3 into the top there of that initial chain 4, right, with a slip stitch, and just end it off, and there you go. That is your first daisy turned into a granny square. So now that we have, let me just cut this here. Okay, pull that through. So now we have our granny square done. We're going to trim off any of these other ends that were in the back. I've already got mine sewn in because I work around, I hold my ends as I work around, so I don't need to sew them in afterwards. And if this looks a little bit messy here on the back, it doesn't matter because that's going to be inside the bag. So you're never going to see that part. Oops, these snips are not very good, are they? So I'm only left with 1 end to weave in, and that end ends up getting woven in as I'm sewing my pieces together. So you need 13 squares. I have 13 already done of this color, and I'm going to show you how I sew them together. So once you get your 13 granny squares, you're going to lay them out in this kind of configuration. And that's how it gets sewn together to create the bag. So you're going to have 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then instead of 1, you're going to have 3, and then back to 2 again. It's up to you how you sew these together, like, but I just use a yarn and a darning needle, and I'm going to show you how I do my seams because there's lots of different ways. You can use a slip stitch with a crochet hook and slip stitch all the way around. You can single crochet them together if you want. You can sew them together using like, I think it's called a mattress stitch. I prefer to sew them together so that you end up with, it's like just a, I'll show you on my bag here. It's just this kind of seam. It just leaves a nice finished edge all around each square. And I'll show you how to do that part. And I'll try and post a picture of this configuration if I can find it. So you can pause the video and see how it's done. Okay, so you cut yourself a length of yarn. I like to use the same yarn that the color of the bag is going to be. So in this case, it's the green. And when I'm sewing two squares together, I'll put my squares, you can tell the front and the back. You can see the back is where I've got all my ends hidden from before. And the front is a nice, clean, finished look. So I'll put two squares front sides facing. And then you're going to be looking at this top edge of your stitches. And what you want to do is you want to start on the outer corner. That's not really in focus, is it? Start on the outer corner. And you're just going to sew through the back loops. So see how there's a V for the stitch? This is a V for the entire stitch. You want to just pick up these back loops and not sew through both of these loops. You want to just sew through the back one. That leaves the front loop exposed, and that leaves that nice clean edge for your granny square. So I'm going to start in the edge here first and pick up these two corners right in the center of the chain 3, and I'll put my yarn into the outside edge of those. There goes my dog barking because my neighbors have decided they want to go somewhere and she thinks it's not necessary. Now again, because it's a bag and I want it to be sturdy and I don't want any of my stitching to come apart, I'm going to tie a knot here. I wouldn't normally do that in a garment, but it's totally fine in something like this where your project is a bag that you're putting together and you want your corners to all be nice and strong and that your stitching's not going to come apart. So I just tie a knot there and just leave the end. So now we're going to go back and forth all the way along here, sewing into the back loops only. Okay, so that's that stitch. So now we're going to do the next stitch, back loop, pull toward you. And this is how I choose to do it. This doesn't have to be how you choose to do it. Then we're going to go back this way now. Back loop, pull through. Here's my V, next V, back loop, come through this way. And we're going to do that all the way along until we get to the end of this square, this side. Okay, so I've gotten all the way along here, sewing back and forth through the back loops only. I'm at the other corner, and I'm going through the back loops only of that chain 3 space. And that's it for the first square. That's all sewn together. Now, you can pull your yarn a little bit to make it kind of tight, but not too tight because you don't want to gather this up. You don't want it to be bunched up on you. And when you unfold it, you can see that my granny squares are sewn together, nice and even, okay, with my nice edges here. There we go. So that's how I usually sew together my squares. So I have to sew together the rest of these. You can sew one at a time. You can end this yarn here and start another one over here, right? And then sew up from here to here if you want. However you're going to be more comfortable working it. It doesn't matter about the number of ends that are left on the back side of the bag, because again, these are all going to be hidden inside the bag, or you can weave them in when you're done. Okay, so that's the first part sewn up. I've zigzagged my way up through here, came across the top, and then zigzagged my way sewing down this way. Now I just have 2 more pieces to add in. 1 piece right there and 1 piece right here. That'll make the bottom and the 2 sides of the bag. Okay, now I have all of the pieces, all of the granny squares are sewn together in that configuration, the way they're laid out. I flipped them over. This is the pretty side of the bag. This would be the unfinished, ugly side of the bag, if you will. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the narrower piece of the bag and flip it up onto this wider piece, like so. These 2 points will match together. That's going to be the top of your bag. So this part here doesn't get sewn together. This now becomes the bottom of the bag, and as you can see, that's already sewn. So what we're going to do is you have to sew this edge right here closed. So you're going to start here at the bottom, sew your way up to here. You're going to flip half of this granny square in, continue sewing along this seam, continue sewing back out the edge of this seam, and end your yarn there. So your bag is open from this point, this side point, all the way across here down to this side point. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to sew just this seam down to here, sew out along this edge, and then down to the bottom. Or you can start at the bottom and work your way up, whatever. But these fold in to become the sides of the bag, and the bottom of the bag is already attached, okay? So I'm going to sew mine together, and I'll come back and show you the next step. All right, that's the bag all sewn up. Sides are all done. This is left open because that's the full top of the bag. I've turned the bag right side out, so the inside is in there. There are a couple of ends left that I didn't weave in, and that's the nice outside. So if you're going to put a lining in your bag, now is the time that you do it before you crochet on your nice border and add the handles. So I have some pink fabric I'm going to use for the inside of this bag. I'll just show you how I cut it out. It is super simple, and I don't put too much thought into it. So let's move down to my, I'll go grab my fabric. Okay, so we're down in my craft room now. This is the pink fabric I had in my stash, so I didn't buy this. It was just fabric I had. It's just a thin quilting cotton. And what I'm going to do is I've laid the bag on the fabric. It's folded over, so this is already a finished bottom. I don't need to sew that right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut. I told you this, no measuring, no worrying about it. We're just going to cut, leaving a nice little seam allowance. So you want to leave about a ½ inch or so all the way around the outside here, and cut up and down and up and down, and come down this side here, and again stop about there at the bottom. So I'm just going to cut that out. I'll be right back. Okay, so there's the lining cut out. So I essentially have 2 pieces that are joined on the bottom here, because this is going to be the inside of the bag. And because I don't want to see this raw, rough edge, what I'm first going to do is I'm going to fold this down slightly, okay, to create a nice finished edge. And I'm going to sew along there. So basically I'm going to do that from here, which is the outer edge of the bag, up and down, up and down. And then what I'll do is I will sew the bag together on each of the sides. Okay, so I've sewed the edge around, and now I've gone ahead and just put the liner inside the bag, and I've just tentatively pinned it with some pins where I want it to go. So you can just hand sew this along this edge to the bag, or you could machine sew it. Either will work. Just make sure you're using a similar thread to the color on the outside of the bag so that the thread isn't seen through the yarn. So I'm just going to pop that liner in and come back and show you how to do the edging then and the handles. Okay, lining is in the bag. Is it the best sewing job I've ever done? No. But is it in there and secure? Yes. So the next thing we need to do is just to do our edging along here and add our straps. Okay, so we're back at my table here. Now that we've finished inserting the lining, if you skip that step, that's fine. We're now going to finish off the bag, and we're going to finish it off by adding a single crochet border around the bag, which extends up and creates the handles. Now you can make these handles as long or as short as you want. Mine's a shoulder bag, so my handles, I chained 100 chains so that the bag hangs at a nice level when I'm carrying it over my shoulder. You can add a shorter handle if you just want, you know, a small bag. That's entirely up to you. The process to do that would be the same. The only difference is the length of chains that you make in between these 2 points when we get to that part. So adding this border on is going to allow us to weave in or sew in any of these extra ends that were left from when we put the bag together. We're going to be working on the outside, from the outside of the bag. So from the nice, pretty looking side of the bag, if you will. Now I'm going to make a little slip knot here. And I'm going to insert my hook. So when your bag is laying flat, we're actually going to start this on the corner. On the outer corner is where we're going to start. And we're just going to push, find a spot where it's comfortable. And we're going to push our hook through, so probably underneath this stitch is where I'm going to go. So I've got my lining there. And I'll go underneath here. It's a little tight because I actually put a knot in there so the seam was sturdy. Oh, almost, there we go. I'll put my slip knot on, tighten that up. I'm going to pull my slip knot through. There we go. And now I'm ready to start crocheting. Okay, I just grabbed myself a coffee. So once you pull up your slip knot there, you're going to chain 1, which I just did. I'm going to grab the tails that I want to weave in from where I had tied a knot there and my tail from now, from this piece. Grab my working yarn, and I'm just going to do a single crochet all the way up the first peak of the bag. Now, in order to give this a nice finished look, and you want it to lay flat and even, we're going to only put single crochets in the top of these stitches. We're going to skip the chain 1 space, so there won't be any single crochet in the chain 1s. So it'll be 3 single crochets, skip the chain, 3 single crochets, skip the chain, 3 single crochets, skip the chain, again 3 single crochets. However, when you get to the peak, like the point of the bag, this is the only chain that we're going to put any stitches across. We're going to work 3 single crochets across here, and that'll help keep the peak, and it'll help us work our way across the peak, okay? So I'm just going to do up the first side of this bag and show you what I'm doing as I go. And then you can do the rest on your own. So I'm going to single crochet. I'm catching my tails. Pull up a loop, single crochet into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, single crochet into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, single crochet. Skipping this, I'm not putting one in here where this chain is coming out of. Going to the next one, into the actual stitch, yarn over. If you can see me there, am I staying in camera? Pull up a loop, single crochet. Okay, into the next one, yarn over, pull up a loop, single crochet. Into the next one, and my tails are short now. I've gone all the way over them, so I'm just going to leave those tails behind. Skipping this chain one space. I'm not going into here. I'm going to go into the stitch. Single crochet, single crochet, single crochet. Skip this space, into the next stitch, single crochet. Another one, and one more. Now we're at the peak. So I'm actually going to put right into the chain space. I'm not going into the individual chains themselves. Into the chain space, I'm putting 1, 2, 3 single crochets. And that helps us turn that peak. Okay? Then, same thing. I'm going to chain into each of these all the way around until I get back to the side of my bag where I started. So you can do that. Just remember, no single crochets in the chain spaces except for the peaks at the top on the front and back of the bag. You're going to do 3 single crochets in those spaces. Okay, once you've made it all the way around your bag and you're back to the first corner where we started, you can do one of 2 things, and this is totally preference. You can slip stitch into that first single crochet and then chain 1 and start your next row, or you can just go ahead and put your crochet hook through there, which was that first, hang on, it's a little bit tight, that first stitch, and just go ahead and pull up a loop, okay, and single crochet and continue right around again, okay? You're just going to continue on. So there's no chain 1, there's no seam here. It's just a continuous row. So that's what I do. So now that we've got round 1 done, round 2 is, again, single crochets, but this is where we're going to add our handle. So you want to single crochet until you get to the first peak. So let me quickly get through there. So I've reached the last single crochet there on the peak. So into the peak, I'm going to kind of go into the middle stitch there, single crochet, and now I'm going to chain 100 stitches. I'll meet you at the end of the chaining. Okay, I've got my 100 chains. You want to be careful not to twist your chain, so you want to have it nice and even. And then we're going to attach this chain to the center of the next peak. Okay, so this is, the handle goes from this peak to this peak. So I'm just going to slip stitch that onto there. Okay, and then we're going to continue to single crochet around until we get to the back, the first back peak. We're going to do the same thing. Single crochet into the top, chain 100, come down, attach it to the other peak, and then finish off crocheting until we end up at our starting point over here at this corner of the bag again. I'll meet you there. Okay, I made it around the bag. I've got my 2 chains, right, attached. These are both of my handles. I know they don't look very long at the moment because it's just 100 stitches. However, crochet is extremely stretchy, and we want our handle to be sturdy enough to hold the weight of the bag. If we make this chain too long, like how we want it to look lengthwise, and then we put the weight of the bag in it and it stretches, the bag is going to be a lot lower hanging than we meant for it to be. So 100 stitches, believe it or not, 100 chains, believe it or not, is actually a good length for a shoulder bag. You could have probably cut that in half or less if you just wanted like a bag that you would carry over your wrist or your forearm. 50 chains or even 40 chains would have been enough across here. But 100 will definitely do it. So now we're going to work on creating this handle and making it sturdy. I've already continued at the corner, right, where this is our starting point and will be our finishing point at all times now going around. What we're going to do to add to our handle is we're going to single crochet up the side of the bag, the first peak. We're going to put 1 single crochet into every chain across. When we come down to this peak, we're going to continue single crocheting all the way around. Do the same thing, 100 single crochets in each chain on this side, and then single crochet down and back to our starting point again. Let me just show you what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and single crochet up to my handle. And once we get to that handle, we're just going to continue our single crochets right across that chain we just made. So I'm approaching the peak. So here I am at the peak. Single crochet into that last stitch there. Now I'm going into, instead of continuing, right, I'm going to go into my first chain here, pull up a loop, single crochet. Next chain, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, single crochet. Next chain, insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, single crochet. So you can see how the handle comes right from the bag and straight up from this peak. So we're going to do a single crochet in every single chain right across. Okay, and when we come down this side, same thing. I'm going to do my last single crochet into that chain, and then I'm going to put the next single crochet into this first stitch and carry on until I come to my peak at the back, and I'm going to do the same thing. Single crochets right around. So you have to do that until your handle has 1, 2, 3, yeah. So you're going to do that all the way around, then you're going to do it all the way around one more time. So you actually have your chain and then 1 row, 2 rows on this side of your handle. And on your bag, it'll look like 4 rows on the outer edge here. 1, 2, 3, which is the one we just did. And when I go around a second time, I'll have a 4th row there. So I'll meet you back after you have all of that crocheted around, and we can see what it looks like. Okay, so I've gone around. As I said, what we're going to do now, which would leave us a handle that looks like this, okay? So we've come up 4 times here. So you can see this initial row here is the first row of single crochet we did around the bag. Then I started the handle with the chain, and then I went around twice, including the chain. Okay, so the handle at this point is pretty skinny. It's only got 2 rows plus that chain where we started. You can see the loops from the chain. What we're going to do now is we're going to mimic these edging rows in here. So along the V and again around the chain 2 times to create 4 rows across this chain. So I've already done it on this side of the bag so you can see what it looks like. Bear with me, I'll move my yarn out of the way. All right. So we're going to start our yarn on the inside right corner of the handle, because originally it would have been like that. Okay, we're going to start our yarn here. We're going to single crochet down the V and back up, catch onto the chain and single crochet all the way around the back side of the handle down to our starting point. Then we're going to do down again, up again, and around for a second time. That will leave us with 3 rows of single crochet along here. So to complete the 4th row, instead of ending here, we're just going to continue one last time down the V and up, and actually end our yarn on this side. So let's get started with that. I've got my green yarn. I'll make another little slip knot. Okay, oops, there goes the dogs. Hang on. All right, let's try this again, shall we? So right here in the corner, right at the top of the peak, I'm going to stick my crochet hook right underneath this stitch here. Pop my slip knot on. Pull that through. I'm going to grab my tail with my hand there. I'm going to chain 1, and now my yarn is joined there. So we're going to single crochet all the way across the V, and I'm going to crochet over the tail, so I won't need to weave that in at the end. The only tail I should have left now is when I actually finish off, and I'll just weave that in when I'm done. So I'm going to crochet down the V and up the V. So down the peak and up the peak on the back of this bag. I'll meet you when I'll come back to you when I get to the other handle. Okay, so here I am coming up to I've gone down the V, up the V. I'm approaching the other side of the handle. I'm going to crochet into that stitch, and then I'm going to crochet into the back loops of the original chain that I used to create the handle. So you can see the original chain, because I crocheted it initially this way, in through the top. I went through one of the loops. This is actually what we're looking at here is the other loop of those chain stitches. And I'm going to crochet into each of those. So the first one, I'm going to go right in here. Let's see if I can get that in camera. There we go. So the first one, I'm going right into that loop there, the back side of the chain. Pull up my yarn, single crochet, go into the next little piece of loop that was left from our chain, our starting chain, and the next one, and so on until I work all the way across this handle back to my starting point on the opposite side of the bag. So I'm going to crochet all the way around this handle until I get back to where I just joined my yarn, right here. Then I'm just going to continue on single crocheting a second time until I come back here, And then the last thing I need to do, because that'll give me 4 rows on my handle, 4 rows on the back side, and then I'll need to do another row just across the V. So I'll meet you back here when I have my 2 rows done across my handle, and I'm here getting ready to finish off. Okay, so I have now gone around this handle 2 times into the, oops, I'm shaking the camera, into the back loop of the chain. And when I came back down this side, instead of ending my yarn here, I did 1 more loop across the V, which now gives me 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of single crochet, the same as the sides, okay, and the same as the handle. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 even rows. Now I'm going to end my thread, my yarn, sorry, by slip stitching into this last space at the base of my handle. Slip my, oops, cut my thread there, my yarn. I keep saying thread because I'm used to cross stitching so much. And now all I need to do is weave in this tail along the back. There's the starting tail. I can clip that off. And we are all done. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you can make a bag for yourself out of the tutorial. I don't even know, like I said, I don't even know if I can call it a tutorial. It's more of a make-along because I don't have a pattern to share. And I'm not a designer. I don't use crochet patterns all the time. If I know how to do something, I'll figure out in my head how to put it together. I already knew how to make a daisy square, and I knew you could make a bag like this by joining 13 of them. I basically Googled how to, like, what configuration to join them in. And once I had that, I sewed them together myself and figured out how many rows I would like for a handle. Now your handle, you will notice, will start to curl, but that actually adds strength to it and it's more comfortable. So as this stretches and starts to curl up, it'll be more like a rounded handle, and that's actually nice, but that's a natural effect of this bag. As you start to carry things in this, and there's weight in it, that will naturally start to happen to the handle, and that's the way it is. You can sew that together if you prefer to have a rounded handle, or you could sew it together that way. I didn't sew mine, and I don't intend to do it, but you certainly could. So I hope you enjoyed that. Happy crocheting, and I'll see you again soon.